Hey everyone, today I wanted to discuss what to do if you trip on psychedelics but your significant other doesn't. Now, I see this question come up on Reddit quite often, and so I just wanted to share my perspective, having dated kind of across the spectrum of people who were like as into psychedelics as I was, to people who kind of dabbled in it here and there, to people who were like pretty straight edge and had never done or planned to take psychedelics. And I just wanted to share my philosophy on it at this point in my life, although definitely it could change in the future. So I'd be okay dating someone who didn't do psychedelics, and in fact I am dating someone right now who has never taken them and has no interest to. For me, my significant other not taking psychedelics isn't really the issue. Like, sure, it'd be awesome if me and my SO could trip together and share that experience, but it's not really a deal breaker for me. For instance, there's definitely things that he's interested in that I'm not, and we can't always date someone whose interests perfectly align with ours, and to be honest, I think that kind of relationship could get kind of stale. Part of the beauty of a relationship, I think, is that once you have that foundation of trust and love, that you're able to show and share different ideas and perspectives, and you can also learn and be challenged by different ideas and perspectives without fear of like heavy judgment or anything like that. And I think it just enhances each other's lives in that way. There are, however, still deal breakers for me, and that would be if my partner was judgmental and disapproved of my use of psychedelics. But that's because psychedelics are a huge part of my life. I mean, look at this damn channel, and psychedelics have shaped me into the person I am today. It's not like I spend most of my time tripping, but I do spend a good amount of it learning about psychedelics and discussing them with others and being involved in the psychedelic community. And when I do trip, I want my partner to be a loving, caring, supportive presence, not a negative, judgmental one. If you're having this issue where psychedelics are causing conflict in your relationship and you're wondering, like, should I break up with this person? I would ask yourself, how important are psychedelics to you personally? Can you reach a compromise somehow in your relationship? You know, a lot of the times reasons that people are against psychedelic use or what they deem hard drug use is from years and years of stigma, and it's really hard to just let go of that and abandon it. And usually your partners are coming from a place of love and concern if they're worried about your psychedelic use. Maybe you could ask your partner to do some research on psychedelics on their own, or send them some educational resources that show that while psychedelics do have their risks, just like a lot of pleasurable things that we find in life, such as skydiving, they can also have their benefits as well, and they can also be used safely. But then after they put in the effort to truly learn about psychedelics, but then they're still against it, which they very well might be, you have to ask yourself if you're willing to give up psychedelics for your relationship. Like, I know for some people their psychedelic use is not as important to them as it may be for like me, so they'd be willing to give up their psychedelic use. But for other people, they may realize that they cannot give up the psychedelic experience, and in that case, probably you should just break up and save each other the heartache, because you're just not compatible right now at this time. So here are things that I think you should not do in handling this kind of situation. First, do not lie about your psychedelic use. Don't hide when you're tripping from them. This won't help at all. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It will not make a really pleasant trip if you have that weighing over you. If they find out by accident, or maybe your guilty conscience makes you come clean, that creates automatic distrust and honestly just makes psychedelic use look really shady. Second, do not push them to try psychedelics. Don't be like, well, if you just took it, you would understand. If you force someone to trip, especially if they're uncomfortable or nervous or have negative notions about it, then it will be more likely that they will have a bad trip, and that definitely will not help. And if you bring it up all the time, they're just going to get annoyed about it and then associate negative connotations to it. Just let them know, like either once or twice, that if they are ever interested or curious or want to try it, that you'll be there for them and you'll help guide them. But all you can really do is plant that seed in their mind and let them get to that path on their own. 3, and this is something that I honestly still struggle with, and that's if they partake in drugs that are more accepted, like alcohol or weed or cocaine. Don't give them shit for their drug use, even though they may be giving you shit for your drug use. I really try not to do this, but sometimes I think to myself, like, why would you want to take alcohol when it just makes you oblivious to your surroundings and incapacitated, and it hurts your physical body, and you just get really shitty hangovers after, when you could take something like LSD or shrooms and contemplate your life and discover things about yourself and see the beauty in the world, and there's no hangovers, there's like usually a beautiful afterglow and shit like that. But I think that we should respect others, not just your significant others, but everyone else's drugs of choice. And it's not like psychedelics are completely free of harm or risk themselves, and each drug can have its own merits. Try not to have that elitist view like, my drugs are better than your drugs. The more that you judge others for their choices, the more that they'll judge yours. So as for what you should do in situations like this. 1, if they're open to it, again, you can ask them to do their own research, but just try not to be pushy about it. Also, you should be doing a lot of research yourself and know about these psychedelics and how they work, because when they ask you questions, you'll have an answer for them, and it just shows that you're taking it seriously and you've done your homework. 2, be a good role model of responsible drug use. This means do psychedelics responsibly, safely, and respectfully. This means not going too overboard with your psychedelic use and taking it too frequently, because that could definitely give like a bad impression to your significant other. Also, don't do dangerous activities like driving while tripping or trip in unsafe environments. Test your drugs, treat them seriously. Treat it like a special event that you put a lot of thought and preparation into. Likely, it will look very different from their preconceived notions of what drug use looks like. Also, are you a person who claims that psychedelics made you a better person? Rather than telling that to your significant other, show it to them when you're sober after the trip. Really, it's good practice to do this as integration for your trips. But if you actually practice what you preach and your significant other sees that, they'll see, oh, it really did make you a better person. And more than just responsible drug use, just be a responsible adult. A responsible adult has their shit together. They pay their bills on time, they can hold a steady job, they have a healthy social life and friendships. This will really disrupt their idea of what a druggie is like, and you will be living proof that you can take psychedelics and not have them ruin your life. 3rd, if you're going to trip in front of them, then start off with a small amount. Like a microdose or a mini dose, somewhere where you still have good control over yourself. Don't go balls in deep the first time you trip in front of them, because then they're going to see you in the fetal position, staring off into space and be like, damn, those drugs fucked you up. Start off small, and then when they're used to seeing you trip on small doses, you can slowly work your way up in dosage in front of them. Warn them about how you might act, how you might not be that talkative because talking will be difficult, or how you might cry or laugh or zone out, but that you're okay. It's kind of like how when you start off with a new drug, you should start off small and work your way up. When training trip sitters to trip sit you, it's beneficial to start off with a small dose as well and also work your way up. Then they'll know, like, when you're on higher doses, that you'll be okay because they've seen you on like the smaller doses and you were okay then, so they'll be less worried and concerned. And then they can see that you survived a higher dose and turned out fine, and that they don't have to be as uncomfortable or scared about your drug use. So even after all of this, they may still not want to trip, and that's okay. What I consider a real win here is instead breaking down the stigma that society has against these drugs, just like one person at a time. Personally, for me, while it would be cool if my partner tripped and we could trip together, he's still an amazing trip sitter and he still comforts me and looks after me when I'm tripping, and I really appreciate that like calm, patient presence, even though he doesn't totally understand what's going on. Like for me, I look for traits beyond whether they take drugs or not. I ask myself, are they a good person? Do they have admirable character traits? Do they share the same life goals and values that I do? For instance, there are assholes who trip and remain assholes after. Tripping does not make someone automatically a good person, and there are many good people out there who have never tripped and they just got there on their own. The whole world doesn't need to dose, and I made a video about that if you're interested, but it's really more holistic than should I be with this person even though they don't trip. And we all have our own deal breakers and boundaries and things we value and find important in life and things that we're looking for in a partner. And so the question of whether to be with someone who doesn't share your psychedelic use is really individual and up to you. But I hope that this video gave you some food for thought on how to navigate a relationship where you take psychedelics but your partner doesn't. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.